You don't need luck to find fish. You need to know how to read water. And once you can do that, you'll never stand on a bank wondering where to cast again. Here's the thing. Most folks pick a spot because it's close to the parking lot, or because somebody told them that's where the fish are. And sometimes that works. Most of the time it doesn't. They're not reading the water. They're guessing. And guessing is why they go home with an empty cooler and a story about the one that got away, that never actually existed. Real spot finding isn't luck. It's not magic either. It's four things: cover, structure, edges, and food. Plus one thing almost nobody talks about that I'm going to give you at the end, because it might be the most important piece of the whole puzzle. Learn to spot these 5 things on any lake, river, or pond you've never fished before in your life, and you will never come home empty again. Let's get into it. 1. Cover, where the fish feel safe. Fish are prey animals just as much as they're predators. Even a big largemouth or a slab of a catfish is thinking about survival first. So the first thing I look for anywhere I fish is cover. Physical stuff in the water that gives fish a place to hide, ambush from, or just feel protected. Wood is king here. Laydowns, stumps, standing timber, old logs that fell in 20 years ago and never left. That's real estate. A laydown tree isn't just shade. It's a highway with rooms built into it. Fish tuck right up against the trunk where the current or the sun can't bother them, and they dart out when something edible swims by. Weeds do the same job, but they add a second benefit. They're a food source, not just a hideout. Bluegill, minnows, insects, they all live in that green tangle, and where the food lives, the predators aren't far behind. Rocks matter more than people give them credit for. A rock pile or a riprap bank holds crawfish, and crawfish are candy to bass and catfish both. Rocks also break current, which means a fish can sit in the calm water right behind a boulder and let the food come to it instead of fighting for every bite. And don't overlook man-made cover. Docks, bridge pilings, that old bit of dock somebody never pulled out of the water. Fish don't care if it's natural or not. They care about shade and security, and a dock gives them both. Here's the why behind all of it. Fish don't sit in open water for fun. Open water is where they're exposed. Cover is where they're safe. If you find good cover, you've found where fish choose to live when they're not actively feeding, and that's more of the time than you'd think. 2. Structure, the shape of the bottom. Now, structure gets confused with cover all the time, but they're not the same thing. Cover is an object. Structure is the shape of the lake or river bottom itself. The hills, the humps, the drop-offs, the channels you can't see from the bank but that are absolutely there. Points are one of the best examples. A point is a piece of land that sticks out into the water and keeps on going underneath the surface into deeper water. Fish use points like a highway on-ramp. They'll move up a point from deep water to shallow to feed, and back down when they're done. If you find a good point, you've found a travel route, and fish on a travel route are predictable fish. Drop-offs and channels work the same way, just underwater. A channel is like an old riverbed running through a lake, and fish use it to move from one part of the water to another without ever exposing themselves to open, shallow water where they're vulnerable. Find where the bottom suddenly drops from 4 feet to 12, and you've found a fish highway. Here's the metaphor that makes this click for people. Think of structure like the roads in a city. Cover is the house, where somebody actually lives. Structure is the road that gets them there. You need to understand both to know where somebody's going to be at any given time. 3. Edges, the fastest shortcut there is. If I had to teach a brand new angler just one concept and nothing else, it'd be this one. Edges are where 2 different environments meet, and fish stack up on edges harder than almost anywhere else in the water. A weed line against open water is an edge. Shallow water next to a sudden drop into deep water is an edge. A shaded bank right next to a sunny stretch is an edge. Even where muddy water meets clear water after a rain, that's an edge too. Why does this work so well? because an edge gives a fish two advantages at once. It can hold in the cover, or the shade, or the calm side, and dart out into the open or the current or the light to grab a meal, then retreat right back to safety. It's the best of both worlds, and fish know it instinctively. You don't have to guess where the in-between is on a piece of water. Just look for where two things meet, and cast right on that seam. I'll tell you, I learned this lesson hard on a river down in Missouri years back. I'd been fishing the open flat water all morning without a single bite, frustrated as anything, and then I noticed a thin, muddy stripe running along one bank where a smaller creek dumped in. I threw right on that seam between the muddy water and the clear water, and I had 3 fish in the boat inside 20 minutes. That's an edge doing exactly what an edge does. 4. Food and current follow the conveyor belt. Predator fish don't wander aimlessly. They go where the food is, plain and simple. So before you even think about lures or bait, look at the water and ask yourself, where's the food? Watch for minnows flipping on the surface. Watch for bluegill schooling near a bank. Watch the birds. If you see herons wading a certain stretch or gulls diving in one section of a lake, that's not decoration, that's information. Birds eat fish too, and they're not going to waste their energy where there's nothing to catch. In moving water, rivers, creeks, even a lake with wind-driven current, think of it like a conveyor belt. The current is constantly delivering food downstream, and smart fish don't fight that current head-on all day. They tuck in behind a rock, a log, or in an eddy where the water swirls calm, and they let the conveyor belt bring the meal right to them. Find the calm pocket right next to the fast current, and that's where the fish is sitting, watching that belt roll by. Now, the bonus. The one thing almost nobody talks about. Everybody wants to talk about fancy electronics these days. Side scan, down scan, $3,000 units that'll show you a fish sitting on the bottom in real time. And look, if you've got one and you enjoy it, more power to you. But here's what those companies won't tell you in the commercial. Nature's been giving away the same information for free the whole time, and one of the biggest pieces of it is something you can read with your own 2 eyes standing on the bank. Wind. Wind is the most underrated factor in finding fish, hands down. Here's why it matters so much. A stiff wind blowing into a bank pushes plankton and baitfish right up against that shoreline. And where the baitfish stack up, the predators follow. That same wind also mixes the water and adds oxygen right where it's blowing, which makes fish more active and more willing to feed. And on a hot, still day, a wind-blown bank is often noticeably cooler than the calm side of the lake, which pulls fish in, looking for comfort as much as food. So next time you pull up to a lake you've never seen before, don't just look for structure and cover. Look at which way the wind's been blowing all day, and go fish the bank it's been pushing into. That's free information nature's handing you. No subscription required. Put all 5 of these together: cover, structure, edges, food and current, and wind, and you've got a system. Not a guess. A system you can run on any body of water in this country, whether you've fished it 100 times or you're standing on the bank for the very first time in your life. I want to hear from you on this one. Next time you're out scouting a new spot, tell me down in the comments which one of these 5 you leaned on to find your fish. Was it an edge? Was it wind? Was it something else entirely? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear how you're putting this to work out there. That's really what this is about. Anybody can get lucky once, but when you understand why fish sit where they sit, you stop hoping and start knowing. And that feeling, walking up to water you've never seen and already knowing where the fish are going to be, that's not luck. That's just paying attention to what the water's been telling you the whole time. Tight lines, and I'll see you on the water.